The federal government has said, we're not helping, so Texas said, all right, enough is enough. Governor Abbott, keep up the great work.
I wanted to be here and thank the soldiers and troopers and other personnel. As far as I know, it's the first time in American history that a state has led the effort to prevent people from entering the United States illegally. Let's be clear. That's the job and the responsibility of Joe Biden and the federal government. There's only one reason why people were trying to enter illegally in the first place, and that's because they perceived the permission by the Biden administration to enter.
Have you done everything you can do with executive authority, or is there more you could do absent legislation?
Done all I can do. Give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the border patrol. Give me the people. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work.
He talks about having no power, yet he magically had the power to terminate remain in Mexico, reinstate catch and release, end Title 42, shut down border wall construction. The list goes on and on. Shoot, almost 8 dozen executive actions during his first 100 days in office.
The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, building the barriers that were needed to prevent people from entering, and then having the personnel behind those barriers to ensure that no one would enter. I wanted to be here and thank the soldiers and troopers and other personnel. Texas was able to secure the border and prevent people from entering illegally only because of their unprecedented effort in a challenging terrain and sweltering conditions, and they were up to the task. And similarly, their fellow soldiers up and down the entire border from here all the way to El Paso are working in the same way. And I have the same gratitude for all National Guard from here to El Paso and DPS troopers from here to El Paso for working around the clock to make sure that we build the barriers that are needed and we deploy the personnel that are needed to make sure that we secure the border. Now, never forget this. It was just 3 years ago in these exact same areas where we had the lowest number of illegal border crossings in about 40 years. And the reason it was that way is because we had an administration that imposed the Title 42 policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, the ending of catch and release, and the building of a border wall. When Joe Biden came in, he eliminated all of those measures, and that led to the unprecedented illegal border crossings. Texas has had to respond to the Biden administration's refusal to enforce the immigration laws. We've deployed more National Guard, thousands of National Guard.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he is sending nearly 1,000 of his National Guard troops to help, quote, fortify the southern border now.
Now, when it comes to the governor's deployment here, the governor is one of 25 standing in solidarity with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Former President Trump, of course, we know, even encouraged other governors to basically follow in Governor DeSantis' footsteps and send more National Guard troops to the southern border. The governor is looking to get these troops into place right now, while reinforcements will be able to get ready to pick up defense forces here, because the crossings have slowed down a little bit, but are anticipated to pick back up in the spring. And this isn't the first time that the Sunshine State has stepped up to help Texas. DeSantis started sending resources back in 2021. Many of them are still here today. He says that they have apprehended more than 150,000 migrants so far. And today, the governor is renewing his commitment to help stop the crisis in the Lone Star State.
Biden has the authority to close this border today if he wanted to. He lacks the will to get the job done. He lacks the capacity to see the problem for what it is and to get the job done. And so the American people are basically left scrambling, and they're left to have to deal with this all on their own. I believe that a state has a right to fortify its own borders. And so if Texas is helping to erect barriers, putting up razor wire, doing other things to keep illegal aliens out, I want to be helpful with them doing that. I don't want to be part of the federal government trying to tear down these barriers and let more people in illegally. This is crazy that this is the case. So today, we are going to fortify our presence along the southern border. We're providing up to 1 battalion of Florida National Guard, as well as our first ever deployment of the Florida State Guard. And the goal is to help Texas fortify this border, help them strengthen the barricades, help them add barriers, help them add the wire that they need to so that we can stop this invasion once and for all. And the states have to band together. The states have to band together to be able to defend the rule of law. And we see the problems, the drugs, the crime, just the sheer number of people. What has that done to hospitals? What has it done to education? It's just, you just can't do it. I mean, we probably have had 10 million come illegally since Biden's been president. But that number, even if that was legal, we cannot absorb that many people. It's just not the way you do business. It's not the way you run a country. But it's also a larger issue. You know, if we don't have a border, then we are not a sovereign country. You either have a border or you don't. You're either a sovereign country or you're not. And if you look at the potential border deal that they're talking about, where they're going to do some type of reform, first of all, Biden doesn't need legislation to do what he's going to do.
He talks about having no power, yet he magically had the power to terminate remain in Mexico, reinstate catch and release, in Title 42, shut down border wall construction. The list goes on and on.
Second of all, they're saying, oh, you shut the border down only if you get more than 5,000 illegal aliens a day. Well, that's 1.8 million a year, 1.8 million a year that you're just saying is fine, that's an acceptable amount of illegal entries. To me, the only acceptable amount of illegal entries is 0. And that's what our policy should reflect.
Thank you to my fellow governors. Half of America now is standing against the Biden administration, also more than a majority of all the attorneys general across the country. Biden is not taking on Texas. Biden is taking on the United States of America.
Greg Abbott is once again challenging federal authorities on the border. He's saying Texas has a right to self-defense because he believes the federal government is not doing enough.
Most incumbents don't lose elections. They get fired, and they get fired because they're doing a bad job. As you talked about, the immigration system and the border issue is the primary issue in America right now.
The Supreme Court is siding with President Biden in a dispute with Texas over the border.
A Supreme Court ruling is giving the federal government more flexibility here at the southern border. The justices ruling Monday that Border Patrol can cut and remove about 30 miles of razor wire installed along the Rio Grande by the state of Texas, escalating a political battle between President Biden and Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Texas National Guard soldiers putting up more razor wire in Eagle Pass to increase border security, despite the federal government allowing border agents to remove or cut that wire.
And now Joe Biden's being encouraged to federalize your National Guard, your state guard. What happens if he tries that? Because he did have a deadline of Friday. He hasn't done anything, as usual, but what if that happens?
If he tries to do that, first of all, as you know, this is the number one issue in America. Americans want a secure border. If Joe Biden federalizes our National Guard, that would be the biggest political blunder that he could make. And that's why I think he will not do it. That said, of course, I am prepared in the event that they do make such a blunder to make sure that Texas will be able to continue to secure our border.
A convoy is on its way to the Texas border.
It's being called the Take Our Border Back Convoy, and it will pass through Austin on its way to Eagle Pass on Thursday. Our Ryan Chandler tells us what to expect.
From the East Coast to the Rio Grande, organizers say hundreds, maybe thousands, will join the Take Back Our Border convoy, coming to Texas this Thursday and Friday.
This is a grassroots operation. This is organic entirely.
Here with more, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, first I applaud your efforts. You've been on this show many times. You've tried convoys. You have done everything humanly possible. So your state, with its constitutional right, has put up the razor wire. They take you to court on that.
So when you look at Shelby Park, it's still business as usual there. It is lined up with that concertina, that razor wire, which has become the focal point for the nation here, watching this Biden versus Texas fight really play out. But where we are is 20 miles outside of Eagle Pass, where at least 200 people have already crossed today. That's down from around 700 earlier this month. Now, that number started to go down when the razor wire went up in Shelby Park. We reported that. It's a stark contrast from the 4,000 daily crossings that we were seeing and reporting back in December. Now, that razor wire only spans the length of the park. It's about 2 miles. So around 3 or so miles outside of that park is where we're looking at. That's actually kind of quarantined off, if you will. And that leaves plenty of opportunities for people to get over to the U.S. side. All you have to do is basically walk till that razor wire ends. So the few miles of razor wire aren't stopping everybody. Earlier this morning, we talked with Congressman Tony Gonzalez. This is his district, and he thinks that the attention of smugglers and the cartel is causing them to be more conscious about where they bring migrants and when they send them across. Take a listen.
It's no doubt that it starts and it ends with the cartels, the criminal organizations on the Mexican side that determine how many people come over, where they go. Are they going to California? Are they going to Arizona? What part of Texas are they going on? They control a lot of it. What they do is they kind of take a moment, they retool, they readapt, they pick different lanes, if you will. And then all of a sudden, the numbers spike back up. So I fully expect that to happen in the next phase.
Former President Donald Trump has put himself right in the middle of Governor Greg Abbott's battle with the White House over border security. On Thursday, Trump asked for all willing governors to send their National Guard troops to help send migrants back across the border. It comes as Governor Greg Abbott and the White House continue fighting over razor wire along the border in Eagle Pass. The Supreme Court has ordered the wire's removal, but Texas troops are still putting it up. Governor Abbott is standing firm against the Supreme Court ruling, criticizing President Joe Biden for not enforcing immigration laws.